welcome to this Astranti video. My name's James and today I'm going to be running you through our industry analysis video. Before we go any further, I would just like to reinforce that this video is designed to be an accompaniment to our main industry analysis pack. We very much recommend that you read through this pack thoroughly and don't just rely on this video, which essentially is a summary where I pick out some of the key topics which I feel will be relevant for you in your exam. So of course our video today is going to be focusing around the fictional company Thomas Fine Teas, who are a manufacturer of teas in the fictional European country of D-Land. So before we go any further, let's reinforce your role within this company. So as usual, at OCS level, you are taking on the role of a finance officer in Thomas Fine Teas. And you are working within the company's finance departments. And as you can see on the screen, highlighted for you, you are principally responsible for preparing management and financial information, although you are often asked to perform tasks that affect other areas of the business. So there we are, we know what role you're playing within Thomas Fine Teas. So now that we've got the preliminary introduction to this video out the way, let's dive into the content. And the first place that I would like to start is a brief overview of some of the key points of the history of the tea industry and what this means for our company on the whole. So tea consumption has a long history, and the earliest physical evidence of tea consumption dates back to the 2nd century BC and the Han Dynasty in China. And it is in China and Asia where the early history of tea develops. So from China in the 6th century, we see tea introduced to Japan by Buddhist monks, and the beverage then spreads across other Asian countries such as Korea in the next few centuries. And what is clear is that tea plays a significant role in Asian culture, both due to its medicinal uses and also its associations as a status symbol. So early tea consumption developed in China, and it wasn't until the 16th and the 17th centuries when this begins to integrate into European life, and this reflects the discovery of China by European nations such as Portugal, and Portugal's missionaries and merchants were some of the first to come into contact with samples of tea, and it was then the Dutch who were the first to commercially import tea, with a shipment of tea imported to their trading post of Java in 1606. Interestingly enough, although tea had been introduced into Britain at the start of the 17th century, it was not widely popularised until the Portuguese wife of King Charles II, Catherine of Braganza, introduced it to the British court. So, although tea remains a national staple of Britain, it was sort of popularised in the country by a Portuguese wife of our king. And following the growing popularity of tea, the British East India Company then began trading in the substance and first imported tea from China into Britain in 1664. So at the start of the 18th century, tea in Britain remained an expensive luxury. However, it was growing in popularity. However, one of the reasons the price of tea was so high was because of the exorbitant levels of taxation the British government imposed on it. And interestingly, what this led to was the development of a wide-scale illegal tea smuggling industry. Tea smuggling continued in Britain until Prime Minister William Pitt slashed the tea tax at the end of the 19th century from 119% down to 12.5%, and this ensured the widespread availability of tea and cemented its place as Britain's national drink. In an attempt to fuel the consumption of tea within Britain and to break the Chinese trading monopoly on the substance, the East India Company actually smuggled tea plants out of China to India And it is here that the Indian tea industry began to develop. And the development of tea within colonial areas such as India and also places like Sri Lanka meant that the price of imports dropped and average tea consumption within the UK skyrocketed, with this product more available and more affordable. So we have tea now established as the national drink of Britain, and this continues into the modern day, with a few innovations along the way, such as the development in the United States of the tea bag. And the tea bag really became popular, sales really took off in the 1970s in Britain. So how does this history apply to our pre-scene? Well, we know that Thomas Fine Teas was established in 1805. And this comes just 20 years after the abolition of the tea tax in Britain, which made tea widely available and affordable for Britons. Although we don't know the history of tea in D-Land, it wouldn't be unreasonable to suggest that founder of the business Joseph Thomas capitalised on the increased availability of tea at around this point to cater for the increased demand in the product in his home market when starting his business. Another key point that it is unavoidable to notice when looking at the history of tea is how truly international the tea industry is. This is a product whose development on the global market was fueled by exploration and by trade. And again, this fits in with Joseph Thomas's background in the shipping industry, but also tries to sort of showcase how global the market for tea products is. Tea is a popular drink, a staple in national cultures, from China all the way to Britain. So I've introduced you to the background, the history of the tea industry, and how this applies a little bit to our company, Thomas Fine Teas. Let's move on and look at some of the different competitors and products which are in evidence in the tea industry today. So on the screen in front of you, you've got a number of top competitors within the modern day tea industry, and you've also got some of the major products that they produce. So you can see that hot tea is prominently featuring among the product types of these major competitors. However, you can also see that many of these competitors produce a range of different products aside from simply producing traditional teas. Now, we will get into the types of tea that competitors produce a little bit more later in the video. But from the product types of these competitors, it's clear that cold tea, for instance, is a prominent product type, and that they also produce many different other types of beverages, from coffee and infusions all the way through to hot chocolate. So what we can see by looking at these competitors and the products that they produce is that there are a range of strong competitors in the market, and that they produce a diverse range of products. So the first of our product trends that I would like to highlight to you in this video focuses around the point I've just made about there being more than just black teas being produced in the industry at the moment. And what we're going to look at is the development of green and iced teas. So as you can see from the infographic on the screen at the moment, green teas were traditionally associated with Asian countries, and these countries remain the primary drinkers of green tea around the world. However, what it is clear from an analysis of the industry is that green tea is growing in popularity elsewhere in the world, and is considered to be one of the fastest growing varieties of tea on the market. Now, health benefits provided by this tea are key, and we will talk about these more in a later chapter. However, what is key is that teas such as Japanese matcha green tea are becoming increasingly popular with consumers because of the health benefits that they provide, with many consumers actually favouring green tea because of its health benefits, despite the fact that they prefer the taste of black tea. Now, these figures are starkly illustrated. For instance, in the US Tea Association has shown a 4% decline in the consumption of black tea in the US between 2014 and 16, and in the same period we have a 1% growth in the consumption of green tea. This same trend is very much in evidence in the United Kingdom. This graph is a little bit muddled, so I apologise for that, but you can see how the sales of ordinary tea bags have declined significantly between 2012 and 2014, and how in the same period we have a significant rise in the sales of green tea. Iced tea is another key product which is showing growth in the market. And in 2016, we saw a 5% increase in the consumption of iced tea globally to 37 billion litres. In fact, the consumption of iced tea products is expected to top 45 billion litres by 2020. Now, the consumption of iced tea does vary across the globe, but what is clear is that the US market in particular is a huge market for these products. So 3.6 billion gallons of tea were consumed in the US, or are consumed in the US each year. And of this amount, approximately 80% of this is iced tea. So what we see here is that iced tea is one of the teas of choice in the United States. However, aside from the growth in the United States, what is clear is that in general, iced teas are one of the growth products in the market at the moment. So let's see how this trend relates to our preceding company, Thomas Fine Teas. Firstly, we can see that the company has made some steps to enter these markets, green tea mainly. It has two ranges of green tea. But what's clear is that it hasn't fully developed and exploited these product ranges. So the company has just these two varieties of green tea, and the lack of development of these ranges has seen its market share decline by nearly 10% from 25% to 16.5% over the last 5 years. And this is primarily identified in the pre-scene as being caused by the lack of new products in these ranges. Now, this is even more starkly, the importance of this, is highlighted even more starkly by the fact that the high growth of green tea within D-Land matches the growth of the green tea industry globally. And so what we're seeing here is that Thomas Fine Tea is really struggling or really failing to develop its product ranges in line with these growth trends both globally and within D-Land. This is before we even get to the fact that there is no mention of any cold drinks in the pre-scene whatsoever among Thomas Fine Tea's product ranges. The company is traditional in nature. It does focus on traditional product ranges, but a theme that we will come back to time and time again over the course of this video is the fact that it has failed in recent years to develop its product range in line with consumer trends. While I have your attention in this video, I'd just like to highlight to you to showcase some of the other products that Astranti offer for students. The first of these is the core product that the company offers, and these are our study texts. So study texts are available for every single module of every level of the CIMA qualification. So if you're looking to sit your objective test, for instance, they're a really interesting, really accessible resource that should help you pass those exams. These study texts are complemented by course videos, which are ideal for those of you who are more visual learners, for instance. Each of the videos is based around a presentation on each chapter of our study text, and one of our experts in the office, the expert on that particular chapter of the study text, talks through all the key points and relevant issues of that particular chapter. The next two products on the list complement each other really nicely and are ideal for those of you who are currently looking to sit your case study exams. The first of these is, of course, the pre-scene analysis, where one of our experts in the office will pick apart all the key details from the pre-scene document and highlight some of the key parts of the document which will be really useful for you going forward into your exam. Our industry analysis, as I'm sure you'll be aware from watching this video, is a more contextual look at the wider industry surrounding the pre-scene and the pre-scene company. Following on from these products, we then also provide mock exams, which are an ideal way for those of you who like to put yourself under exam pressure, for instance, in the lead up to the exam, to have a go at some really exam standard questions and test yourself out that way. If you want to take the mock exams a little bit further, we do also offer a marking and feedback service, which is provided by qualified accountants who are actually CIMA qualified themselves. The final product you can see on the list are our masterclasses, and these are for those of you who have maybe decided to sit the exam a little bit late and need to catch up, or for those of you who want an in-depth look at the entire topic. And essentially, these are an in-depth look at everything which might come up for the particular course. These are both available live, but also available as recorded videos after the event. And finally, such is the confidence that we have in our materials, that we offer a pass guarantee scheme, which essentially means that if you take our full course and unfortunately you fail to pass your exam, we will for free help you out with course materials for the following sitting. So once again, thank you very much for listening to this video. We hope that you choose Astranti for your course provider in the future, and wish you the best of luck for any exams you have coming up in the near future. Thank you.